Maureen Langan. Hanging with Langan tonight. Her name is Harriet Stubbs. She has a new album out. It's her debut album called Heaven and Hell, The Doors of Perception. Before I introduce you to her, let me explain some of this. I'm calling this segment Music 101 because I need to open my mind to forms of music beyond Bruce Springsteen, John Denver, and Placido Domingo. Fine fellows. I love all of them deeply, but we can expand nonetheless. Now, a friend recently introduced me to the music of Harriet Stubbs. Critics call her cutting edge, where she fuses rock and roll and poetry of William Blake. She's a classical pianist. She hits those keys to her own tune. It's amazing. And she was voted one of the top 3 pianists in Britain and one of Britain's brilliant prodigies. She's played at Carnegie Hall in New York, and she performed in a Harry Potter movie. And like I said, she's just out with her debut album, Heaven and Hell, The Doors of Perception. And I'm excited for her to tell us who produced this. Good for her. Welcome, Harriet.
Hi there. So thrilled to be with you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, so I wanted you here with me, Harriet. I know you just came out with your debut album, and I want folks to know who produced it.
So it was produced by Russ Teitelman, who's won 3 Grammys for work in other genres, actually. So he produced Eric Clapton, Elton John, Bee Gees, George Harrison, George Benson, James Taylor, Ricky Lee Jones.
Wow.
And he's had a spectacular career and is a phenomenal musician who also is very well-versed and loves classical music. And so this was his first classical crossover project that he had ever done, and we both just decided that we wanted to do something together, and it's been really exciting.
This is fascinating because Russ Teitelman has worked with that roster of huge names that you just put out there. So how did he find you? He's not worked in classical music. What was it about you and that connected for him?
So we met in a deli called Barney Greengrass.
I love Barney Greengrass, the best white fish salad in Manhattan. It is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic. Too expensive, but fantastic. Go ahead.
So great.
You met him at Barney Greengrass? It's a little bagel joint, for those of you who don't know. It's a very old Jewish joint, and you go in there and you get the white fish, and you just met him there?
Well, so one of the waiters there, Julian Tepper, who is a great author and musician himself and just creative in general, was friends with me and with Russ. And I'd known Julian for a couple of years because I met him when I was first wanting to move to New York, and it was February, it was a blizzard, it was freezing, and I sat in Barney Greengrass for, 8 hours taking the free coffee refills. And Russ was sitting at another table at this sort of Thursday boys' lunch that they have, and Julian said, "Oh, do you know Harriet Stubbs?" And Russ said, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Well, you should meet, da da da." So he wrote his details down on a Barney Greengrass receipt. And we met up for a milkshake a couple of months later. And we just kind of kept doing that for a year, maybe 18 months. And then, we talked about our interests musically, what we listened to, who we liked, what we didn't do. And, he had so many amazing stories that, sitting there for a milkshake was just amazing. And then one day I'd just come back from Berlin. Nigel Kennedy had asked me or flown me over to Berlin because he was interested in playing with me and working with me.
I don't know Nigel Kennedy. See, I've told you I'm ignorant musically. So you have to I told you.
No, not at all. No, not at all. He's British violinist, was a child prodigy and specialized in bringing classical music to the people and crossover, and was at the time signed to Sony under Mark Fell. And Mark I met whilst at the Berlin Phil concert.
All right, now you're killing me with all these names of people I don't know, but that's okay.
Okay.
We'll get back to you. Anyway, this classical pianist flew you over to Berlin, so that's cool.
Yeah, violinist. So I went to,
Sorry.
So I went there, and I'd just come back from that trip, and Russ asked me about it. And I said, Sony and I had spoken about me doing an album with them. And he said, well, why don't you and I just go into a recording studio and do a couple of things? So we went up to Jacob Burns Film Center in Pleasantville, and
that's in New York.
We had a great time. That's in Pleasantville.
Oh, so that's in New York.
Like
Pleasantville,
yeah.
in New York. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Yeah.
I'm just
like
giving.
just
You're all
out
over
of
the
city.
world. I'm trying to pinpoint you for people. Let me tell them who I'm speaking with.
Yes.
I'm speaking with
Where are you
Harriet
at?
Stubbs. Her debut album, Heaven and Hell: The Doors of Perception. She's a classical pianist, crossover. They're saying that she is just amazing. I listen to her music. It's absolutely fantastic. So I can attest to that. And she's talking right now about Russ Titleman, who produced for Eric Clapton, Elton John, Steve Winwood, 100 other people, and how they connected to produce this, woman's album. Okay, go.
So Russ and I went up to Jacob Burns and we started sort of recording, and we came up with a concept that really made sense to both of us, that would incorporate his experience and career in rock and roll and my love of William Blake, the poet.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted it to be a journey and a narrative that made sense and that could actually take you somewhere and be accessible to people that don't normally listen to classical music. And so as a Blake lover and having studied his mythology a bit, I really wanted to take it from Blakean state of innocence to experience to higher innocence. And we together, by exchanging music over the course of a couple of years, actually going back and forth about what made sense, recording, going back, talking about it, we created this narrative and then thought, well, wouldn't it be great to have someone read some Blake? And we needed the right piece to go under that. So we came up with the idea of using John Adams' Phrygian Gates, which very much fit into the idea of doors, gates, and opening and, creating a larger audience. And so the album actually begins with John Adams' Phrygian Gates, me performing that, and it's a piece that sort of starts quite low and builds, and Marianne Faithfull is reading different plates that I curated of William Blake.
I want to stop you there, because Marianne Faithfull, she is so amazing, and I've seen her perform live with the Chieftains years ago. What a history, what an icon. So it's really like a spoken word music, and I want people to take a listen now to what Harriet Stubbs created and listen to Marianne Faithfull. You get a little taste of this.
As I was walking among the fires of hell, delighted with the enjoyments of genius, to which angels look like torment and insanity, I collected some of their proverbs. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. The roaring of lions, the howling of wolves, the raging of the stormy sea, and the destructiveness of the sword are portions of eternity too great for the eye of man.
That is Marianne Faithfull with the music of Harriet Stubbs. Explain how you guys came up with that, because it seems very interesting.
When we decided on the narrative of the album, I decided that we would like somebody to read and really set the listener up for what they were going to go into. We felt that using Blake's language was the best possible way to do that. And why not have someone read it that really loved Blake and had a relationship to Blake and to rock and roll? And Marianne Faithfull seemed like the perfect option. And it's a series of parts of plates from Marriage of Heaven and Hell that I did to form the narrative and the message of the album. And so Marianne recorded it in Paris and sent us 4 versions, and they were all incredible. And that was that.
How did you make that happen and connect with her?
Marianne was Russ connected Marianne. He had a relationship.
He knows everybody.
He
knows everybody. And we're going to, we're playing your music. We played it in, we'll play it out, but I have some more questions for you. Some of your music I heard was one of the Harry Potter movies.
Well, no, I didn't write the music, no. I played in The Prisoner of Azkaban, the 3rd film, when I was 13. You can see me on screen when they have a sort of choir singing at the front and they're carrying frogs. It's the beginning of the semester. And then there's 13-year-old me that I've been put in Hufflepuff. I don't know why. I don't know who did the sorting hat that year, but whatever. And and you can see me playing.
Very cool. Now, what is the challenge? Because, I know you're a brilliant young woman. You started as a child, a toddler, playing the piano. And then did you get I heard you were 5 years old. What, you got some scholarship at 5 or something?
Yeah. When I was 5, I got a full scholarship to the Guildhall School of Music.
The Guildhall School of Music in London, for those who don't know, which is as prestigious as it gets, isn't it?
It's a phenomenal school. I was very, very lucky. Yeah, I had an amazing education there. Yeah.
At 5, I can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have to audition for? You're 5. I mean, I couldn't do a tin whistle at 5. I still probably can't. So wait a minute, you had to audition for them, Harriet Stubbs?
Yes, I did, and everybody was 12 and above, and I was 5. So all my friends were so much older. It was very bizarre, but really fun, and I loved it. They gave me, I was there for 10 years on a full scholarship. They kept renewing it. It was absolutely amazing. They're fantastic.
Congratulations. Now, they said you're a prodigy. So what does that mean? I mean, I know what a prodigy means, but did you come out of the womb and your parents oh my God, where did this gal come from? Or were you around music your whole life? I mean, or were they he was a plumber and she was a school teacher and you just came out knowing music? Where did this come from in you?
So my father is an estate agent, so not from him. My mother was she studied music, she was a pianist, and she was teaching, and so I'd hear the piano all the time when I was very young, which I guess was what my awareness was. And she used to work very long hours, and I think I apparently just really wanted to play too, because it seemed like everybody else was playing the piano all the time. And she was against it at the beginning.
Why?
Because she'd done it her whole life, I think, and I don't know if it was what she really wanted me necessarily to do my whole life, but it happened, and she got me to a certain level and then said that I needed somebody past the level to which she'd been educated, and so I went to James Gibb, who was Professor Emeritus at Guildhall, and I was the youngest he'd ever taken.
What were you there,
he
2?
didn't take anyone under 18.
How old were you then?
He took me at 5, and he'd never taken a child. Yeah.
But I mean, he'd never taken a child. He's never worked with a child.
No. And he didn't want a child either. He was at the first. He said, no, I don't teach children. And then he met me, eventually played, and he was the greatest influence on my musical career. He was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
So now, and then at 8, you played at an international piano festival. You know what I want to know? Watching you play, and I was watching the videos of you playing, it's really, it's I don't know, I don't have the right word. It reels me in. It's exciting. You're just first of all, you're beautiful and gorgeous, but that doesn't have anything to do with your talent. But that's nice that you have that going for you too. Good for you. I mean, that doesn't suck. But how hard is it? That's why I wanted to talk with you today, because I want to learn more about what you do, because I don't know that world. So it must be challenging. I'm sure in the classical world, you have this mass appeal because of your talent. But people like me, how hard is it to cross over? And also, what would you say your music is?
I had no real knowledge when I started playing of what I was going to do with it. I never booked a concert. No one booked a concert for me. They just organically happened as a child. I was suddenly doing so many concerts a year, and it evolved naturally, but there was never a plan, certainly not one I knew about anyway.
Yeah.
And then when I got to kind of 13, as with most teenagers, I think, I really questioned why I was doing what I was doing and what it was all about, and was I able to do other things. I wanted to check that I could do other things too. And I kind of rediscovered music through going to Glastonbury, my first Glastonbury.
Okay, that's an international, well, back up. That's an international piano festival, Glastonbury. You have to act like I know nothing about classical music.
Oh, no, it's not. No. Glastonbury's like our Woodstock.
Okay.
It's nothing to do with classical
very
music.
Good.
They have no classical music. Right. It's like that or Burning Man.
Oh, Burning Man.
That's
okay.
basically what
Got it.
It's that vibe.
I got it. Okay.
So nothing to do with classical music.
Okay.
And I had been still performing between sort of 13 to 15, but I wasn't really sure that was what I wanted to do. And I was kind of redefining, myself. And then I went and, I was a teenager. And I got to 15 and I went to Glastonbury, and I just remember feeling like, oh my God, I've missed music so much. I cannot live without this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just cannot not do this with my life. That was it, really. And so from that moment forth, I wanted to bring together all of it because it made sense. And at this point, I'd really started getting into literature. I'd really started getting into rock and roll. I wanted all of those things because I felt that they were equally beautiful, equally wonderful, and find a way to present them and put them together. There's no reason why there shouldn't be Prokofiev on a stage at Glastonbury. There's absolutely no reason why not. And bringing those relationships together, showing the synthesis between those genres is really my goal. And I also, I'm interested in playing, other music, like Mike Garson, who was pianist for David Bowie for quite a while. He has written some Bowie variations, which he is interested in having me play, and it's kind of like Bowie and Rachmaninoff mixed together. It's amazing, and that's kind of my dream, doing things like that and playing to as many people as possible, and them hearing it and not seeing it as something that just belongs in Carnegie Hall, but seeing it as something that is as accessible to them as it is to people that have spent their whole life in classical music.
I want people to take a listen now. I'm Maureen Langan, and this is KGO. I'm Maureen Langan. My guest is Harriet Stubbs, Heaven and Hell, The Doors of Perception. That's her album that's just been released. Classical crossover, produced by Russ Titleman, who worked with Elton John and Eric Clapton. Marianne Faithfull is on the album, inspired a lot of her music by William Blake. I'm learning so much here with you. What about, so how hard is it to cross over? How hard is it to get an American audience to know your work?
I haven't found it difficult, really. It's all happened really organically. New York is a magical place, and when you meet people and things organically, creatively synthesize, they move to the next level, and it just happens.
Yeah, for you it does.
Indescribable electricity, and I think that's really what's enabled it to happen. And being interested in many things, doing many things outside of practicing the piano, and being curious about the rest of the world has contributed to that, and it makes total sense to me, yeah.
I will tell you this, Harriet. I have sat in Barney Greengrass, the Jewish deli in Manhattan, eating my white fish, and I have never run into a producer who wants to give me an HBO special. I'm going to sit longer, because you sat there for 8 hours, and I'm going to sit longer. I'm just going to sit there. So, good for you, though. It's a really great story. Where can people get your music, and will you be performing? I know you also live in LA part of the time. Where can people see you perform live, or tell us how we connect?
Yeah, I've got an upcoming concert at Le Poisson Rouge, which is the public launch of the album. We did an industry exclusive event at Yamaha. I'm signed to Yamaha, so it made sense there. We did a beautiful event a couple of weeks ago, and then the album went out last week. And this event is now the sort of public launch. That's the 30th of October.
And where is that?
New York. That's Le Poisson Rouge.
Where the heck's that?
It's down in the West Village.
Okay, that's in New York. So we're in California.
It's on Bleecker.
Okay, well, for those in New York on October 30th, you can go down to Lower Manhattan. But this is a San Francisco and California audience, so they can get your work where? Online, or where can they hear your music?
Yeah, and the Blue Whale, we're planning to do an event at the Blue Whale mid-October. We're just confirming the date. But yeah, that's
And where's the
plan.
Blue Whale, for those who don't know?
Koreatown.
Oh, very good. Very good. So right here
Yeah.
in San Francisco, that would be fantastic. Looking forward to that, but you don't have a date on that. But what's your website?
HarrietStubbs.com.
Harriet Stubbs, that's with two B's, Stubbs. Can they go to your website to get the album, or do they go to iTunes? Where do they go?
It's available on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, and Amazon, and also Pledge Music, where you can get merchandise like signed T-shirts and posters and experience packages where I do private performances and things like that. So
very cool. The album
too.
is Heaven and Hell, The Doors of Perception. You got to check it out because she's really inviting and it reels you in. And I'm very grateful that I was exposed to you. And forgive my ignorance around the classical music world. But it was an opportunity for me to get to know you and to introduce you to people who are going to be entranced by your wonderful talent, Harriet. Thanks for being with me tonight on KGO.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And let's go out on some more riveting music of the incredible Harriet Stubbs. Check this out. We'll play this out. I'm Maureen Langan, and this is KGO.